This is the grim symbol of a generation's worth of strife for First Nations communities in Canada.
We tried to boil that water to make it safer. It's never really been safe.
Some days it's so discolored and you don't even want your kids to be in this water, but we have no other option.
Even if I have to get that water from the creek, I will do it. Why should my family die from all these things here?
For as long as some can remember, water, like this.
Toilets that don't flush, no water to wash your hands, and it's terrible.
I can't do no laundry, I can't clean my dishes, I can't give my kids a bath, I can't really cook.
My towel was white.
Children that have grown into adults never having been able to turn on the tap and take a drink.
It's hard because it's like you gotta feed the baby, you gotta bathe the baby, and like how are you gonna make formal if there's no water?
Some third world countries wouldn't have tolerated this kind of situation.
How many deaths and how many people are sick from this? I think it's about time that somebody done something about it.
Hopefully some government in Ottawa will wake up and see that we have people, elderly people, children, communities all across Canada without drinking water.
As far back as 1998, there were numerous exceedances of high bacterial levels in the intake water. Health Canada officials knew this. Nothing was done.
Mr. Speaker, the solution in Kasheshason is not another Band-Aid. The solution is long-term, permanent investment in that community.
I think it's the left hand not knowing what the right hand's doing.
It's never been an engineering problem. It's been a political problem.
For decades, it's been a complicated and much debated issue. Each water system is different. Each water source is unique. Many communities rarely encounter boil water advisories or a complete loss of water, but those that do are required to essentially compete for the resources to fix the problem.
And when the funding doesn't flow, when the funding doesn't come, or you wait, you do proposals and you don't get any replies, and you're in the queue with the other bands in Atlantic Canada, or for that matter in Canada.
We are basically at our wit's end, and where's the federal government in all of this? Potable water is a basic right for every human being in the world.
We say that we live in the greatest country in this world, and yet our people in Nishnawbe First Nation cannot get safe drinking water.
A CBC pre-election survey shows that 36% of Indigenous respondents saw water as the most important issue to their families.
We've lifted 87 long-term boil water advisories. There's still more than 50 to go.
Drinkable water.
Clean drinking water. Can't drink the water.
Safe drinking water. Water.
Water.
Water. Water.
Water.
Water.
We'll address this as a top priority.
Along with the campaign promises to fix the water problems, the issue has been talked about, debated, pushed as a priority in the House of Commons for decades. And yet, there are still up to 50 First Nation communities on boil water advisories. Dozens more using those blue bottles because they still don't trust the tap water. But there are potential solutions being proposed. 15 Mi'kmaq and Wolastoqiyik First Nation communities in the Atlantic region have established a First Nations-owned water authority. The authority would act as a utility company, owned and controlled by a board of the region's chiefs. It would oversee and regulate spending, training, and water quality testing, taking any liability from community water operators, chiefs, and councils. First Nations water technicians will be licensed and trained, all to national standards, serving their own communities, which accounts to nearly 80% of the First Nations population in the Atlantic region. It stands alone, the only First Nations-owned water authority in the country.
The Water Authority has been proposed for safe drinking water, right? Health and safety of First Nations communities. All communities that participate would expect the same water quality in each participating community. There would be standards for construction, standards for operations.
With a water authority, you'll have people on the ground, but you'll have other people in other communities that can come and help.
You'll have the manpower and the resources to tackle a problem from start to finish.
It's having that ability to ensure that everything that we have is safe and it's up to the standards that it should be, and that we are the ones that are going to be accountable for that. Not that we're not already, but working as a team together, I think will just make us that much stronger.
Though there are still some First Nation communities in the region unwilling to take part for fear of relinquishing any of their current annual funding to the authority, it already has momentum. It's just made its pitch to the federal government. It's asking for $231 million over 25 years to repair, restore, or build water treatment facilities, and an additional $11 million a year for operation and maintenance.
We want to be able to, at the end of the day, turn on our tap and have a glass of water. And some communities, they can't do that.
The Department of Indigenous Services Canada says it is supportive of the Water Authority and is mandated to transfer the care, control, and management of its programs to First Nations organizations. But with an election looming, it's still unclear whether or not the authority's proposal will be approved.
We lifted 87 long-term boil water advisories.
The Liberal Party says it is still committed to following through on its promise to end all boil water advisories by 2021, calling it a top priority if re-elected.
We have moved forward on reconciliation.
When asked about the Water Authority, the Green Party said unequivocally, yes, funding this First Nation-led solution is a no-brainer.
And we need to focus on real solutions.
The Conservative Party, in a statement, said it's clear that the current approach is not working quickly enough and that the federal government needs to be more creative to address the challenges.
Ensuring that a cabinet minister is responsible specifically for Indigenous consultations.
Maxime Bernier, leader of the People's Party, said that if elected, ending boil water advisories will also be one of the party's first priorities.
We need to build a new system, working with them.
The New Democrats said that funding First Nations-owned initiatives is owed to Indigenous peoples, given the deep and intergenerational impacts of colonialism, and said making the required investments to correct the problem would be an immediate priority.
We make sure there's clean drinking water. I don't accept any excuses why we can't.
Success for the Atlantic First Nations Water Authority isn't a sure thing just yet. The federal government hasn't firmly committed to its proposed funding. Experts say this is one model that could be applied in any region across Canada to potentially, finally, provide Indigenous peoples the clean water they deserve. That is, if any potential government's commitments actually hold water.